Gamers, we're back with another video. Today we're gonna do October tier list. Now this is gonna be the last one for this part of the game. The next tier list will be done with the new civilizations in November. Yeah. Now what am I gonna base this tier list? I'm gonna base this tier list, I usually just do land maps, and I kind of, since this is like the last one, I want to base it off of a little bit of everything. What I want to base this civ is on how many maps it can be played, like that can put it in an S tier, but also at the map, like let's say it's only played on land maps, how good it is on land maps, right? So it's gonna be a little bit of both. Usually I do these tier lists, like I base it only on land maps and that's it. But now I kind of want to show what I think of the civs as a whole, because like I said, the tournament that we just had is the last tournament on the standard mode that is going to happen, so I might as well just go all out. With that being said, we're going to start with probably one of the most versatile civs, and on the maps that it is played extremely strong, it is Mongol. In the last tournament, Call to Arms, we've seen Mongol being the second highest banned civilization, right behind Rus. It's great on hybrid maps, such as, I mean, I don't know what maps are on the ladder. It's great on Danube, probably the best civ. It's great, like probably the best civ again on Golden Heights. It's really good on Hill and Dale because of trade. Really good on Highview because of trade. Really good on Prairie, probably the best civ on Prairie. Very good in Altai because of trade. Okay, and Dry Arabia. Like even the maps that it's not supposed to specialize on, it's really good. And the reason why it was banned is because the maps that it's good, it's like really good. Like it's not just like, oh, that's okay. It's like, no, it's, you need a counter for it, or you need some kind of pick or something, right? The only maps that Mongol is not good on is like full water maps, I would say, like Baltic or, you know, Holy Island or something like that, but that's about it. The next one we'll be talking about, no surprise, it is Rus, which is currently, and probably until the new expansion, it is the best civilization in Age of Empires 4 by far. It was banned, I mean, I don't have the stats here, but I'm pretty sure it was banned like 99% of the games in the tournament, maybe 98% of the games. It was always banned. I didn't get to play it once, or maybe I played one game with it when someone didn't ban it, but whenever like a top 30 player played Rus, they won with it. So it's the best civ. I mean, it can be played on land maps, it can be played on hybrid maps, it can be played on water maps. On water maps, it's absolutely broken. On land maps, it's broken. It's just a really, really good civ. And warning, disclaimer. This civ tier list is for top level gameplay only. I am very aware that English is S++ tier in Gold League. This is not a tier list for gold players. Thank you. We already know the tier list for lower leagues. It's S tier, whatever your opponent is playing, D tier, whatever you're playing. There we go. We have done that tier list, and now we can continue. I'll leave it like, I think I'll only do 3 tiers. I don't think I'm going to do all 5. Very disappointing, but I'm going to have to put HRE in B tier. Very disappointing because I love HRE, but in the tournament it was only really used on 2 maps. Maybe someone sometimes uses it on a hybrid. It's not really used on land maps. It kind of fell off quite a bit. Like I feel like people found a way how to counter like the castle rushes or whatever HRE could do, and it's just not a civ that's that used anymore. Which, like I said, it's sad because I love HRE, but it definitely feels a bit weak right now in my opinion. The next one we will be talking about is gonna be a civ that went up quite a bit in my eyes, and that is Ottoman. I think Ottoman is a really good civ actually. You know, since the last big patch, I was always putting Ottoman at the bottom. we've seen a lot more play in tournaments from Ottoman, and I'm actually thinking, like, I'm not even memeing. No, we'll keep it A tier. Like, for me, the versatility puts it at S tier, but I'm putting it in A tier because I don't think it's like OP like Rus or like Mongol trade, but it's really good. Like, it's almost like A plus even. Yeah, it's not existent on like Baltic or Holy Island, but on hybrid maps, it's probably the second strongest civ, maybe even strongest at times. On land maps, it's really good. It has quite a few good matchups, but we'll give it an A tier. But I think Ottoman's really, really good. And it was always a civ I didn't enjoy playing, but in the practice for the tournament, I actually started enjoying it a lot more. So, Ottoman, very nice. Why am I bouncing? I'm just moving my legs. The next one we'll be talking about is going to be... it's going to be English. And, I mean, I've been saying this for a while, but it's just not it. It's too slow in the current meta. And you know what English's specialty was? The hybrid maps. And, even with the hybrid maps now, I feel like English is not good there either, because in one of the patches, they removed one of the melee armor from men-at-arms. And also, Ottoman, I feel like, and HRE are now slowly beating English on hybrid maps, because people have figured out, like, oh, if I just make spears immediately, even though the men-at-arms are stronger, you know, I can heal them up with my prelate, or I can get the Imam Vizier point, and then actually it becomes borderline impossible for English to win. So I don't really think English is like oppressive on water maps as much as it used to be. And not to mention Mongol just straight up beats it, right? So yeah. And then English on land maps, I mean, I've been saying this for a while, but English on land maps is just too slow. I don't know a single top player that plays English on open maps. It's literally mostly used on hybrid maps, and if it's not used on hybrid maps, they are not getting picked at all. So I'm gonna have to go. It's kind of in the same system with HRE, to be honest. Like, it's for the same exact reasons. So yeah, it is what it is. The next civ we'll be talking about is going to be. We'll go with French. I do think that, let's go like this. We might need to make one more tier. I don't think French is as bad as English as HRE. Obviously, it's not played on water maps or hybrid maps, but on land maps, it is still used. It is still played. It's very, very aggressive. You can lose the games against it really easily. And most importantly, the recent Red Palace changes, I say recent, like a few months ago, made it so that French Imperial is actually pretty strong. Their crossbows are pretty strong. The Red Palace upgrade, it gives all your TCs the crossbow attack, arbalist attack, is broken as hell. And I actually think it needs to be nerfed because it's so fucking strong. Like, I don't know if you've ever played against French Imperial. When the Red Palace shit starts shooting, like, it's insane. It's like killing knights. Like, a TC is just killing Imperial knights. It's crazy. And I think on maps where there's a lot of food, like obviously French is really good. We've seen it on Dry Arabia in the tournament. We've seen it on Frisian Marches. We've seen it on Lipany sometimes. Sadly, doesn't have that many maps to be played on, but it's a pretty good civ overall, I would say. Like, I don't think it's necessarily bad because it's in B tier. I think it's probably on par with Ottomans in how good it is, but the versatility kind of drags it down a little bit. Next one is going to be, we'll go with China. China is an interesting one. I felt like China was reaching S tier, but in the last tournament, because of the tournament format, no one was playing China on land maps because you always had to save China for hybrid maps or not hybrid, but water maps. And China was like only used in water maps. It wasn't really used in Dry Arabia or Frisian Marches that much, or Lipany. But I feel like it's still a pretty strong civ. And in a way, it's kind of disappeared a little bit because you only would see it on Holy Island, which is basically like Baltic kind of map. I still think China is pretty good. Has a lot of strengths, and I'm gonna put it in an A tier. The next civ we'll be talking about is going to be, it's probably going to be Abbasid. I think Abbasid is overall a solid civ. I don't think it has any counters. In fact, it probably does well into most of the civs. I think the Abbasid's biggest weakness is the player. Like, you can actually play Abbasid on Baltic, and you cannot play it on hybrid maps. But I feel like Abbasid's biggest weakness, like I said, is the player. Like, if you don't take damage and you manage to successfully, like, you know, execute your 2 or 3 TC, it's very strong after. Like, Castle Abbasid is just fucking nuts. I don't know if you guys knew, but the Abbasid archers in Castle with the military upgrade were bugged, so they were attacking way faster than they should have. And right now they're like fixed, but they're still incredibly fucking strong. And I think overall, just Abbasid is a really, really good civ. Has a lot of good matchups. Doesn't really have weaknesses, but it is hard to pull off at the top level without taking damage, I would say. So yeah, the next civ we'll be talking about is going to be Malian. Where would I put Malian? Malian is not an S tier civ. I'm trying to think. Like, Malian has a lot of counters. And it also counters a lot of civs, but it doesn't strike me as like, oh, it's OP kind of thing. I'm just gonna put it in A tier. Like, I think it's really good, but people have figured it out. You know, they find the counters, and maybe it's even B tier, to be honest. Like, it does well into French, but like after that, it's kind of like eh. It does well into English too, but I feel like it gets overwhelmed by Abbasid, it gets overwhelmed by Ottoman, it gets overwhelmed by Delhi. Doesn't do too great against Mongol. Maybe we go like this. I can't put them with these because I just don't think it's that good. Like, there's been a lot of hype in the tournament for Malian. Like, oh, dude, people even banned it at the start of the term. I remember the first 2 weeks Malian was getting banned. And I was like, what are these people doing? And I just don't think it's that good. I think it has a lot of weaknesses that people are like getting to exploit more and more. And last but not least, all memes aside, Delhi. I would personally put Delhi in S tier if this was land only. If this was like Dry Arabia, Lipany, and that's it. But because this is an overall, like, taking everything in perspective, I would probably put Delhi into A tier. I think Delhi is probably the best feudal civ for open maps. But after that, it's like there's no real other maps you can play it on. I mean, you could potentially, like, okay, Lipany, Dry Arabia, and then what? Like, maybe Highview and Hill and Dale, right? But it's just not very good on those maps. And I think what Delhi does is S tier, right? Like, the stuff that Delhi is good at, it's fucking good. But the stuff that Delhi lacks, it's really bad. Like, there's some things that Malian lacks, right? But it's not like downright awful. And that's kind of how I feel about it. So I think I'm pretty happy with this one. Like, again, there's maybe a potential to put Malian here and go like this, right? But if we look at the win rates from the tournaments, by the way, let me actually check this. If we look at the win rates from the tournament, I think Malian, again, it started being banned all the time, and it was like, people were like, oh shit, Malian is crazy. And then it kind of just flopped pretty bad overall in win rates. Statistics. Yeah, 40% win rate. It's the lowest win rate civ. It definitely got a lot of plays, but yeah. So I'm gonna have to go with that one. We're giving Malians a B tier, French C, D for English and HRE, Abbasid, Delhi, Ottoman, and China into A tier, and S tier, Rus and Mongol. Which, again, I'm not basing this just off of open maps like Dry Arabia, Lipany. I'm basing this off of how good the civs are in what they are good at. Like, are they top tier in what they're good at? And also how versatile the civs are. So, there it is. So, if you're looking to just play ladder, you know, I would say S and A tier civs are pretty good to just pick and play. Obviously, Delhi is not playable necessarily everywhere. But again, I always say this, disclaimer, just because HRE or English is D tier, that is not the reason why you are in bronze, why you're silver, why you're gold, platinum, diamond, or Conquer 1. You can reach Conquer 3 with literally any of the civs. The differences in what I'm talking about here are not big at all. They're very minor. And once again, we are closest to perfect balance that we've ever been at. So I think that's great. And as always, just because this civ is here, this civ is here, that doesn't mean that the English has 0% win rate against Rus. It just means that I think the Rus will win majority of those games, right? At the top level, of course. And that's it. That's my tier list for now. Again, this is going to be the last tier list for this part of the game. The next tier list will be with 16 civilizations. 16. How do I look at tournament statistics? You go AOE4world.com/tournament/call to arms/statistics, and you have all the stats right here. Anyway, if you're watching this on YouTube, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Check me out on Twitch. I'm probably live right now. If you're watching on Twitch, let's keep going.